Hello everybody, welcome back, and in today's video we're going to be talking about how Japanese people actually talk every day with their family and friends. And I think the term is called plain form, but I'm just going to call it casual form because it's a little easier to remember. Now, this is a slightly more intermediate level video, so if you don't know how to conjugate Japanese verbs, nouns, and adjectives in the formal form, you can go ahead and check those videos out first and then come back to this one. It'll make a little more sense if you learn those first. Okay, so jumping right in, we have our box as usual, but if you haven't already noticed, I wanted to point out that all Japanese verb stems end in an I sound or an E sound. Okay, so we're going to talk about the E sound ones first because it's a little easier, and then we'll jump right back into the I sounding verb conjugations right after that, okay? So first, looking at the E sound conjugation chart here, you see there are rules at the top of each of the boxes, and all you have to do is add those sounds to the verb stem and it's immediately conjugated, okay? So for A sounding verbs, the examples I have, and this also applies to single sound verb stems like mimas, which is to see, and shimas, which is to do. Okay, so I'll just go through the first example and then you can pause the video and check out the other boxes. But looking at the top left one, we have tabemasu, which is to eat, and so to conjugate that, all you do is get rid of the mas and replace that with ru. Okay, so tabemasu becomes taberu, and that's I eat, and that's a casual way of saying I eat or I will eat. Taberu. Okay, and then the next one is miemasu, which is can see, so you just change that to mieru, which is the same thing but more casual. And then the next one we have mimasu, which is I see or I look, and then that is a single sound verb stem, so we just drop the mas and then we replace it with ru, so mimasu becomes miru. And then the last one, shimasu, this is an exception. In only this circumstance, shimasu is an exception. So instead of saying shimasu, you just say suru. Alright, so now we're going to jump back to the verbs where the stem, the last sound in the stem, has an E sound to it. Okay, and this conjugation is a little more tricky, but like anything else, it'll be easier the more you do it. Okay, so we're just going to look at the top left box first in order, and what we're going to do is we're going to take the final sound in the verb stem, which is an E sound, and we're just going to change it to the U line of that column that it's in, as you can see here in this box. Okay, so for example, we're going to skip tabemasu, and then we'll go to the next one, which is ikimasu. And so you see the verb stem is iki, and then mas is the ending, right? So the final sound in the stem is ki for iki. So you take the ki and you change it to the u sound in that same column, and ki becomes ku. So instead of ikimasu, you just say iku, and that is I go or I will go. Alright? And then the next one, we have yomimasu, which is I read or I will read. And the last sound in the verb stem is mi. So you change the mi to mu. So instead of yomimasu, it's yomu. Okay? And then the last one, we have arimasu, which is to have. And again, the last sound in the verb stem is ri, so you change the ri to a ru, so arimasu becomes aru. Okay, so moving on to the next one, and that is the affirmative past conjugation. And for this one, you're already going to have to know te form, which is in another video, so if you didn't watch that, or if you don't know how, go ahead and check that out first and then come back to this, because this conjugation is the exact same thing as te form, but instead of te, you say ta. So I'm just going to call it ta form, okay? So going into the examples, the top one is nomimashita, which is I drank. Remember that? And so the mi is the final sound of the verb stem. So the mi changed into ta form is, or te form would be nde, right? So nonde is the te form of nomimasu, right? So nonde, but instead of de, it's da. So instead of nonde, it's nonda. Okay, so 飲みました becomes 飲んだ. Okay, I drank. And then going to the next one, 来ました. So this is a single sound, so all you have to do is add ta. So instead of 来ました, it's just 来た. Okay? And then the next one is 書きました, which is I wrote. And so the final sound in the verb stem is ki. So in te form, instead of it would conjugate to kaite, but instead of kaite, it's kaita. Okay, and then that becomes the past tense of this verb conjugation. So instead of kakimashita, it's kaita. Okay, and then the last one, we have arimashita, which is I had, and the last sound in the verb stem is ri, and changing that to te form, it would be atte, but instead of atte, it's atta. Okay, so arimashita becomes atta. Alright, so now we're moving on to the negative present conjugation, and I wanted to bring this chart back. And remember, for the present affirmative conjugation, we changed the E sound of the verb stem to an U sound. Similarly, in this conjugation, you change the E sound of the verb stem to an A sound. Okay, and this one is a little tricky also because for verbs that end in I, on the instead of saying I, it's I wa. Okay, so just be careful of that, and I'll show you an example of that right now. Alright, so here we have some verbs, and starting from the top, we have tachimasen, which is I don't stand or I won't stand. And so the chi is the I sound of the verb stem, and so the chi is in the ta column, so we change the chi to a ta, and then we add nai to it. So tachimasen becomes tata nai. Okay? And so the next one we have nemasen, which is I don't sleep or I won't sleep. And so this is a single sound verb stem, so all we have to do for this one is add nai to that. So nemasen becomes nenai, I don't sleep or I won't sleep. And then the next one we have that semi-tricky conjugation that I just talked about. And we have iimasen, which is I don't say or I won't say. And so I is the last sound in this verb stem. And so instead of moving the I to a, it becomes a wa instead. Okay, so iimasen becomes iwanai. Iwanai, I won't say. Okay? And then the last one we have ikimasen, is I won't go. And so the final sound in this verb stem is ki. So the ki becomes ka, and then you add nai. So ikimasen becomes ikanai, ikanai. Ikanai, I won't go. Alright, so moving on to our final conjugation box, and that is the negative past. And it is exactly like the negative present, except instead of adding nai, you add nakatta. Okay? So going into the examples, starting from the top, we have suwarimasen deshita, and that's I didn't sit, obviously. And so instead of suwari, you say suwara, and then add nakatta, okay? Because ri is the last sound in this verb stem. So the ri becomes ra, and then you add nakatta. So suwarimasen deshita becomes suwaranakatta. Okay? And then moving on, we have an exception verb, which is okimasen, or okimasu is to wake up. Okay? So the negative past is okimasen deshita, I didn't wake up. And because this is an exception, all we do is add nakatta instead. So okinakatta is I didn't wake up. Okay? So this is an exception. Okimasen deshita is okinakatta. Okay, and then the next one we have I didn't do. So shimasen deshita is a single sound verb stem. So shimasen deshita becomes shinakatta. And then the next one we have another single sound verb stem, which is imasu, which is to exist or to be there for a living thing. And so imasen deshita is he wasn't there, or I wasn't there, or she wasn't there, or the dog wasn't there, for example. Imasen. Okay, so imasen deshita. just becomes いなかった. Okay, so like the dog wasn't there, you just say 犬がいなかった. Okay, for example. And then the last one we have that other tricky conjugate, and that is 言いませんでした. I didn't say. And so the last sound in this verb stem is い, so the い becomes わ. Okay, so 言いませんでした becomes 言わなかった. 言わなかった. Okay, 言わなかった. I didn't say. Alright, so I hope you guys understood the rules that I was trying to explain in this video. If you didn't understand something, of course you could always leave a comment and I'll try to get back to you. But please go back and watch this multiple times because, like I said, it is a little tricky. And the more you do it, the more you get used to it. And you'll be able to conjugate verbs much faster as time goes by. So last but not least, I just wanted to read a sample paragraph that I wrote. Hopefully you guys can follow along and you can see how the verbs are conjugated in a more casual form. Okay, so here we have our sample paragraph. I'll try to read it slowly, but in Japanese you kind of have to speak faster in order for things to sound right. Okay, but I'll do my best to read it slow, and here we go. So, 昨日遅くまで起きてたけど、今朝6時に目が覚めた。7時に家を出て、7時半までに学校に着いた。宿題を提出したけど、1個の質問が分かんなかった。夜にパーティーに誘われたけど、多分行かないと思う。Okay, so I hope that was slow enough for you guys to follow along. I'll translate it now for your understanding, and it says, yesterday, I stayed up until late, or I was awake until late, and this morning I woke up at 6, or I opened my eyes at 6. And at 7, I left the house, and by 7:30, I arrived at school. And the next sentence is, I turned in my homework, but there was one question that I didn't understand. And in the evening, or at night, I was invited to a party, but probably I think I'm not going to go. So again, even though you might not understand all of this paragraph, I hope you can just see in the red how these verbs are conjugated, and this type of speech is more casual, like everyday speech, how you would talk with, like I said, family and friends. Alright, so that'll be all for this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. じゃあ、またね。